Okay, to date I have yet to see an argument against homosexuality or gay marriage that is not A, religious dogma based, B, bigotry and homophobia, C, a combination of A and B, or D, bad spin to try and cover up A, B, or C. It's getting to the point where I would actually like to at least hear a good argument just because it would be a refreshing change, because the bad arguments are getting extremely tiresome. Let's see, some of the arguments against homosexuality. It's unnatural. You hear that one a lot, which is, for one thing, this is the naturalistic fallacy that because something's natural it's good, or because something's unnatural it's bad. I mean, there's all sorts of naturally occurring poisons that I would still consider bad for humans, and there's all sorts of unnatural things like antibiotics, which I would consider quite helpful if properly used. So, again, naturalistic fallacy, that fails. In addition to that, it also fails just on its own internal logic. I mean, there's all sorts of homosexual and bisexual behavior throughout the animal kingdom, so again, it's not even unnatural. You see the argument that homosexuals can't have children, therefore it's wrong. Often this is kind of just further fleshing out of the it's unnatural argument. Well, there's all sorts of people that can not have children. I mean, should people that have had vasectomies and had their tubes tied, should they not be allowed to have sex anymore because they can't have children? I mean, should postmenopausal women not be allowed to have children? Should people that have just genetic defects where they can't sexually reproduce but can have sex, should they not be allowed to have children? I mean, if that's your standard for why you can't have sex is because you can't have children, then again you're denying rights to more people than you might initially assume. Your logic, if it's to remain consistent, must deny a whole lot of people beyond just homosexuals. I see the argument that anal sex is risky. Now, for one thing, this argument entirely ignores lesbians, who without the use of certain prosthetics can't engage in any sort of anal sex. It ignores the fact that heterosexual couples have anal sex. I mean, this is basically an argument against anal sex, not an argument against homosexuality, really. A lot of homosexuals, from what I've read, are supposed to engage in oral sex, not anal sex. So, again, this argument is not an argument against homosexuality. It's an argument against anal sex. In addition to that, pretty much any measure of human contact has some disease risk. I mean, touching, kissing, certainly, that's a swapping of oral fluids, and I mean the mouth is a temperature range, moist, warm, that's a place where a great many viruses and bacteria can flourish. So, I mean, if your argument is disease risk, you're basically looking to eliminate a whole lot of human contact. In addition to this, there's precautions you can take against disease transmission. So the issue is, again, how much risky human behavior should be illegalized. I mean, you're also making, if you're making the argument that anything that's risky should be illegal, you're of course talking about illegalizing cigarettes, fatty foods. I mean, if you want to talk about slippery slopes, that is a very slippery slope. You can't just unnaturally exclude it to just anal sex, which again is just, a small section of the entirety of homosexual behavior. So, moving on from that, no, I think that covers all the ones that immediately spring to mind against homosexual behavior, but please present others. Gay marriage. Let's see, the arguments against gay marriage that I've heard. Let's see, one is that marriage is all about raising a family, and since gays can't sexually reproduce with each other, then they should be excluded. Well, if marriage is all about raising a family, then again, postmenopausal women should not be allowed to marry. People that have vasectomies and otherwise, arrange that they can't have children should not be allowed to marry. Again, and people that are, for some reason or another sterile should not be allowed to marry. I mean, if that is your argument, then apply it fairly. I don't think you really want to exclude all those people from marriage. I don't think you want to exclude senior citizens from marrying just because the female of them cannot sexually reproduce anymore. So again, usually these arguments are bad spin to cover up bigotry. So moving on, you also see the argument that the slippery slope argument for gay marriage, that gay marriage will lead to polygamy, and it will lead to bestiality, and it will lead to pedophilia. I mean, once you allow one, you allow all of them, which is a very bad argument. First of all, it cracks me up when I see the religious arguing against polygamy, because, I mean, polygamy is in the Bible. Polygamy is in the Abrahamic tradition. It's just there. Many of the revered characters were polygamists. The kings of Israel, David, Solomon, Saul. I mean, they were all polygamists. They all had an extravagant number of wives, and not a word was said against it in the Bible. My feelings on polygamy, I have a very libertarian view, whatever between consenting adults, as long as it's not used as a method of harming the physically immature, as long as young brides aren't being forced into polygamous marriages, then I don't have a trouble with that. I also get concerned about, be using it as a tax dodge and, as a welfare cheat, somebody having, 20 children between 3 wives. I don't think they should, get tax credits for all of those. So, I mean, the issues are not about polygamy, but they are about, social responsibility and fiscal responsibility. So the polygamy itself doesn't bother me. I mean, heck, have as many wives as you want in that regard. But let's see, the argument against bestiality and pedophilia, that is just pure rubbish, because we already have laws about that are separate from marriage at all, that are about, the ability to give sexual consent. Someone has to be sober enough to give sexual consent. They have to be intellectually and emotionally developed enough to give sexual consent. So, these are already the standards that protect children, and they protect animals. And your goat can't give sexual consent, no matter how much you want to say the sparkle in its eyes verifies your belief in its true love for you. It's just not intellectually considered capable by the laws of the land. So, I mean, no, legalizing gay marriage does not open the door for anything goes marriage. That is just pure rubbish. So, again, man, give me something, people. Come on, I want to hear a good argument. If you have something, present it, but so far to date I have not heard anything remotely... I almost forgot the historical argument against marriage, that marriage traditionally has been between one man and one woman, which again, polygamy blows that one out of the water. It's not even true within the religion of the people that usually make the argument. In addition to that, marriage traditionally has been a property issue. A man sold his daughter to a husband, or else he paid him to take her, depending on relative social status, or else it was about families making political or business alliances. It was, of course, about the inheritance of property and making sure that it was inherited down your lineage, that, the property was kept in the family. But, traditional marriage has very little to do with what is nowadays considered marriage. So, the historical argument, if you're talking about, the historical value of marriage, then if you're wanting us to stick with that, then you're basically kind of throwing modern marriage out the window for the most part. And I don't think that is what you want to do either. So, please comment. I would love to hear your thoughts.